Alright, so our data in our worksheet is kind of longer than it is wide, so let's go ahead and from the orientation button in the page layout tab, select landscape. That's in the page setup group here. Doesn't look like a lot changed, but this vertical dashed line between columns L and M is telling us where our page would cut off on the right side if we were to print it. So that's about, as wide as a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11 that you're holding sideways, and then here's 31 between rows 31 and 32, where the bottom of that paper would be. So our two orientation options are landscape and portrait. Now how about the margins? That's how much distance there is between the edges of the page and the content. You can see the picture of the normal margins up here. And then I like to look at the third picture, narrow margins, very narrow. And then here we're actually going to set some custom margins by clicking custom margins, and then in this page setup dialog box, setting the top margin to 1.25. And you can just click the arrows, or you can type in and replace the text directly in there, in that text box, to 1.25. So that'll just make the space between the top of the page and the content just a little bigger. I think these are in inches, so adding about half an inch. And then this is important, when you click horizontally under center and page, look what that does in the middle. That graphic there is going to show us that our table is going to actually centered when we print it. So we're not going to change the content, but we're going to change where it is. You're going to change its location to the center of the page. And we still have our custom margin of 1.25 for the top margin. And with those two changes made, go ahead and just click OK. Here I'm kind of fussing with it again, but I'll make sure the top margin gets set to 1.25. And then click OK. Next up, let's insert a header and possibly a footer. So a header, that's just a little area at the top of the page, a footer, a little area at the bottom. By clicking the Insert tab, and then from this text button in the right, selecting header and footer, that'll actually take us right to our header. So here we have three sections at the top of the page that form our header. If we were to scroll down, we'd see the same for the footer, but I don't think we're going to put in a footer in this particular worksheet. For the header, for the left section, let's go ahead and type in our name. In the center section, we're going to want to display the worksheet name, but resist the temptation to just type in April. Instead, let's go to the header and footer elements in this new header and footer tab that just showed up once we started, messing with the header, mucking around with it. And what we're going to want is to just click sheet name when we're in this center section of the header. That's going to actually put in like an Excel code for the sheet name. So if we were to update the sheet name, then that update would cascade into our our sheet name kind of placeholder here for the header. So that's what we're putting in when we click sheet name in the header and footer elements group. And there's the Excel code, but when we click away, that and tab, that'll change to whatever the tab's name is, in this case April. Same thing here for the third section, click current date. We'll get the Excel code, but when we click away, that'll update with today's current, today's date. So now we've inserted a header and we've put in our different, elements of it. Left, center, and right. You don't always need a left, something in all of those places, just because there are places there to put things. But in this case, we did put one thing in each of those places. Now here, where you see that scale, and you can click minus or plus in the bottom right of the screen to zoom in or out. There are also these buttons for changing the view, and the leftmost button there is normal view. So I just clicked that just to get some practice with the views. So I clicked normal view of these three different views there. And now I'm clicking File and Print, really just to get a look at the print preview, which is here. So this is what our page would look like if we just clicked print. It's taking up one page. You can see where it says 1 of 1 at the bottom of the print preview there. We see our header is going to get printed out, so that's good. I think that's as expected. But we do kind of have two copies of our, our table from before. So we might want to change that later. Here I'm just kind of selecting different printers. You could print it to Adobe PDF, for example, if you would like. Or you could print a hard copy, but we're not really turning in any hard copies, so I'll go ahead and I'll just click back and go back to the worksheet here. What I did now is I pressed Control tilde. That was to toggle on the formula view. So now we're seeing the formulas instead of the values that we were seeing before. And now here in the page layout group in the sheet page layout tab in the sheet options group, I'm going to select the checkbox for print under Gridlines. So you might have been wondering, oh, how do we print the actual row and column, the horizontal and vertical lines, and also for headings, how do we print the row and column labels? So I'll select print, that checkbox under headings as well. And now when we go to the print preview, we can see the row and column labels are there. The grid lines are there. And the worksheet has become 2 pages. Oh, and we're viewing it in formula view. So a lot of changes are, are being reflected here in our print preview. Yeah, there was a lot that we changed just now, and it's all being included in our print preview, so we can see the effects of those changes. The grid lines, those are those kind of like perforated looking lines between each of the columns and rows, and printing the row labels. That we have the headings that print the row and column labels here, A, B, C, D, E, and 1 through 26. And yes, again, we're looking at the formula view, and things now are taking up 2 pages. So you can get to the next page and the previous page by clicking the right and left arrow at the bottom of the print preview. But for now, I'm just going to click back. Rather than printing anything. I'm going to change the margins to narrow just by, just like we did before. Click margins in the page setup group. This time though, just click that, predefined option of narrow. And now I'm going back to the preview just to show you the margins look a little more narrow. It's hard to tell that for the bottom because I don't think our content goes down that low, but for the top, yeah, it looked, like our content was a little closer to the top when it's getting printed out than before, so narrower margins. I'm just going back to the print preview again just to show all this. Next up, let's say that we only wanted to print a subset of the cells. So we just want some of the cells, but not all of them, to print out. We can do that by using the print area. So by setting the print area, so let's select the cells that we want to print out. I actually am going to just type it in the name box. We want to print out B4 to H11. So I typed in B4:H11 to select those cells. And now we're going to set the print area to include those cells so that they're the only ones that print out. So to do that in the page setup group, it'll be the print area button and then set print area. Also, under the scale to fit group, let's go ahead and make some changes here. So let's change the scale just down to 85%. And then let's take a look at what that will look like by clicking File Print. So now we're just seeing the print area being printed out. Things are down to one page, which you can see just because it says 1 of 1 down there. So that's our indication. Things are down to one page, which is usually good. I like to try to fit everything in one screen or one page if possible. You could press Control tilde to toggle off the formulas view, or you can go into the Formulas tab and then deselect Show Formulas. Either of those will toggle on and off the formula view. Now column B is showing some hashtags, so I'm going to click between columns B and C to widen column B to accommodate the data. Same for the other columns with hashtags in them. And then I'll just go File Print again. Here's what that print area would look like were we to print it. But we're not going to print it here. Instead, I'll just go File Save. So I did that super fast, so I'm going to do it again here. File Save. For our final step, saving and closing the workbook.